Hi, everyone. I'm Deb Flashenberg. Welcome to Yoga, Birth, Babies, a podcast produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. We will be diving into everything prenatal yoga, birth, and baby related, hoping to inspire, educate, and empower you through your journey into motherhood. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Deb Flashenberg. I'm your host of Yoga Birth Babies, and today's episode is a little different from our typical format of Yoga Birth Babies. Usually, I'm the one asking the questions, but today we're going to turn the tables on me. So for the past 24 years, I've had the privilege of teaching thousands of pregnant students and training hundreds of teachers through what has now become known as the PYC Method. And as we prepare for our 24th birthday at PYC, yay us, I thought it'd be fun to pull back the curtain and talk about how this method came to be, how it's evolved over the years, and what makes it unique. So to do that, I invited someone who has experienced the PYC Method from nearly every angle. My guest today is Phoebe Sanford. Phoebe first came to Prenatal Yoga Center as a teacher trainee. Then she joined our teaching team, stepped into the role as a teacher trainee mentor, and this fall she'll be joining us as a co-teacher for the PYC Method Prenatal Yoga Teacher Training. In this conversation, Phoebe asks me questions. We talk about the origins of the PYC Method, how the training has changed over the years, what has happened when we pivoted during COVID. That was quite an interesting time, and some of my favorite and most challenging aspects of teaching. Then, I get to be the interviewer again, and we switch roles, and I get to ask Phoebe about her experience as a trainee, a teacher, a mentor, and now a co-teacher. So if you're curious about the PYC method or considering our PYC teacher training, or just simply interested in hearing a little behind the scenes story of how we have evolved over the past two decades, crazy, this episode is for you. So if you haven't met Phoebe in studio or online, because she teaches both our evening classes, which is just for our PYC in-studio students, but she also teaches our hybrid class on Thursdays. Let me tell you a little bit about Phoebe. So Phoebe Sanford is a 200-hour vinyasa yoga teacher who has been teaching adults and children throughout New York City since 2012. Her classes emphasize safe alignment, mindful movement, injury prevention, and finding joy in the practice. After the birth of her daughter, Phoebe developed a deeper passion for supporting parents through pregnancy and postpartum. She completed the 85-hour PYC teacher training at PYC in 2025 and is now serving as a teacher, mentor, and co-teacher training for the program. When she's not teaching, she enjoys baking bread, reading fantasy and sci-fi novels, musical theater, and is spending time with her daughter, Liv. I am so excited for you to hear this conversation. Honestly, it was fun. It was kind of fun to reminisce about really the origins and how things pivoted through major points and really looking back and how things changed and where things are going. I'm really excited for you to hear a bit of our behind the scenes. If you haven't had a chance to check out things on our website, please do so. So what you can do is head to prenatalyogacenter.com. There you can find Phoebe's bio and picture. But besides that, you can find our schedule for our online classes, our in-person classes, of course, our teacher training, our workshops. Gosh, the blog is probably 20 years old and the podcast is now 11 years old. So we have a ton of past episodes and we have some free yoga videos. So everything's on the website. All right. I think that is enough from me because you're going to hear a lot of me in this upcoming episode. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, please enjoy my conversation about the PYC method and the joy of chatting with Phoebe. Hi, I'm so excited, folks. All right. So I never do this. First of all, we're doing a video, which is really funny. And because it took a while for Phoebe and I to get our backgrounds and get our mics, and I still have my huge mic here. But we are breaking, and I have my clunky headphones. We are breaking away from our typical Yoga Birth Baby format. And we're actually turning the tables where Phoebe's going to interview me. I'm still unsure about that. So the reason that we are going to changing things up is we're actually going to talk about how we built the PYC method. I've had students ask me about this. I've talked on other podcasts about it, and I realize I haven't really talked about the yoga part of the Yoga Birth Babies in a really long time. So as I thought this would be a great idea, I reached out to somebody who I want to get an insider's point of view. So my guest today is someone who came into PYC as a teacher trainee, and then very soon became part of our teaching team, and then jumped into the role as a teacher training mentor, and is now going to join me as a co-teacher for our late fall cohort. I have Phoebe Sanford here. Woohoo!
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited you were game for this. When I was thinking about, all right, who would be that person? I really thought about someone that has really been on that whole trajectory and has seen many different facets. Because not only as a teacher trainee, but then you jumped into actually teaching, and then a mentor, which I really want to hear your perspective of kind of being between those two roles. Yeah. So I feel like you know this program inside and out, and I'm excited to hear your point of view, because obviously I have a point of view because I created it. So I guess, okay. So first, I know that you have some questions for me, and then I'll get back to my comfort of asking you questions. So, all right, I'm on the hot seat.
I know.
I'm ready.
You'll do great. Should we start with a big one? Big question?
All of them. I'm ready.
Right, so let's dive in. So what inspired the PYC method?
Oh gosh. Okay. So it's been seeded and changed through many years. So for those that don't know really, I mean, the main origin was that I had opened PYC knowing I wanted community within yoga, because prior to making Prenatal Yoga Center, I was very much in the Bikram community. I know it's my big, dark yoga secret. We can unpack that later. But there, it felt like people ran in, took class, often showered, and then ran out. And there wasn't, hopefully the shower is very sweaty. And there wasn't a lot of community. There was community amongst the teachers and some community amongst different practitioners, but it wasn't really fostered. Now, after I quickly left the world of Bikram, because I was quite disenchanted quite quickly, I started studying at Om Yoga. And what I loved about Om Yoga with Cindy Lee is she really focused on community. There's actually a little side area in the lobby of the new space that they had, and it was very community based. They did potluck dinners. It was really community focused, down to even the Dharma talks at the beginning. And I knew that I wanted PYC to have that. I didn't want it just to be run in, take class, run out. And I also knew that during pregnancy and parenthood, a lot of people looked for community, and especially a place like New York. Most folks don't come from New York. A lot of us are transplants. And so we don't have that community available. So we have to make our own community. So that was part of what inspired that part of it. So PYC is the three-prong method. We have the yoga asana, we have community of childbirth education. And then after I opened the doors of PYC, within my first year of teaching, I had a student ask if I wanted to come. You've heard this story in teacher training. I had a student ask me, do you want to come see some births? So I opened PYC when I was 28, and none of my friends were having kids. And I said, yes. And so I went up to meet her at the hospital. She put me in scrubs, and she told everyone, I know this is probably so illegal.
The story.
She put me in scrubs and told everyone I was a med student, which is also, again, kind of bonkers, but I went with it. So I saw a lot. I scrubbed in for a C-section, which is really funny, is they had somebody going around and like taking official names. And they're like, what's your name? And I'm like, Deborah Flaschenberg. And they wrote down Dr. Flaschenberg. I'm like, no. First of all, my mom would love that. But no, I'm like, make sure I am not on any official records anywhere. I didn't last very long for that. I saw actually a twin vaginal birth, which was really unique. But you've heard the story, but the story that really changed things was, it was this one person. She did not speak English. She was with her partner. So English was her second language, if at all. And it was really almost emergent feeling. And The care provider that was brought in was the attendant because it must have been a long labor, but they were doing a vacuum extraction. So they put the little cap on the baby, and if it pops off 3 times, no more using it. It goes to a section. So by that 3rd time, for whatever reason, I was brought in the room. Everyone was in the room. The baby was born with the help of the vacuum extraction. And it was so interesting. What happened is that I felt like they were congratulating the doctor. And the room emptied pretty quickly. And the baby, instead of going to the parent's chest, was wrapped up and placed under, obviously they, did some stuff, but eventually wrapped up and put in the heater. And for whatever reason, I was left there and the nurse was doing charting. And the parents were just shell-shocked and no one was really communicating and supporting them. And I, in my own quiet, literally quiet, like I mentally was like, welcome, child. I am here to hold the space for you because you're alone and you were just inside your mom. And so when I left the hospital that day, it was such a pivotal turning point that I knew what I was teaching before then was just modifications for pregnancy. And what I wanted was the education part, that what can we do in prenatal yoga that can educate people, that can help them advocate for themselves, help them make choices, no choices. And so that really created that other pillar of PYC, which is the education, that every single class has a theme. So my way of thinking is like these little bite-sized bits of childbirth education. You can really chew on it, digest it, embody it through the poses. And that can help with the idea of making choices. And then another turning point with the method was actually my own birth, but we can talk about that later.
Well, of course.
Yeah. Because I think that helped things evolved. Like that really changed things. The birth of my first child.
Well, I wanted to also ask how the PYC method and the training evolved over the years. Was your own birth, was that a portion of it?
Yeah, that smacked me in the face. So I walked in thinking, I've got this. That's what I do. I'm a prenatal yoga teacher. At that point, I had seen almost 100 births, if not more. I was a Lamaze teacher. I'm like, I've got this. And my mom often talked about my own birth, like, you were almost born on the way to the hospital. So I'm like, yeah, this is going to work out. It's going to be great. And it was not. It was long. It was 42 hours. It was 5 hours of pushing. It was a bit emotionally traumatic in the healing because I felt incredibly supported the whole time because of the team I chose. I never felt rushed. I never felt judged. I never felt pressure. It was never held over my head like, oh, it's, we've been laboring this long. I do think that's because of the team I chose. But after, the healing was really a wreck. And I stepped back and I thought, what happened? And what I realized is that at this time, so my son is going to be 15 in a couple weeks, we didn't talk as much about the pelvic floor back then. We didn't talk about the psoas. And what I realized was from my years of dancing and exercising, and I love riding a bike, like indoor, outdoor riding. I rode literally my whole pregnancy, outside until my husband literally took the bike away. And he's like, you cannot ride this anymore. He's like, you are 7 months pregnant. You are not riding this anymore. And then for spinning, I was literally dressed in my spinning clothes like the day that labor started. And I'm like, oh, if the contractions go away, I can hit the 10 o'clock class. So what I didn't realize is that my pelvic floor being as tight as it was and my psoas being as tight as it was, that created a lot of the dysfunction. And so the more I studied that, the more the PYC training evolved because I wanted to really dive into the anatomy. And so, as you know, we are so anatomy first. And then from there, I continued. I did the spinning babies training, which takes a lot of the 3 levels of the pelvis. I did Dr. Sarah Duvall's prenatal postnatal corrective exercise program. It's a whole 2-year training that and then I did the body ready method. Like the more I learned, the more I brought into the training. So it's funny because I still have different iterations of the manual. And I think right now it's over 200 pages. And at one point it was like 60 pages. And like, we just, that's like the anatomy section alone.
Yeah.
And so it evolved through my own experience and just through my own curiosity. So that was a bit of a long-winded answer.
Love a long-winded answer. Keep them coming. Well, and you kept the training going during COVID, right?
Yeah, that was a lot.
So then how did that change the training? And was there any pivoting that you had to do during that time?
So, oh my gosh, COVID. All right. So it's so interesting because I'm actually really appreciative of how we ended up doing it. So we had already been taking the training to other cities. And so I had already been in North Carolina a couple times, DC, Richmond, Virginia. So we already had the online classroom. And so we had all those videos made so that we would, same way we do it now is that we release the online classroom a month ahead and then people learn it. And then we are there for the weekend, one weekend, they learn it and we're there for the second weekend. So we actually had a lot of the material ready for that. But then I had to we've worked through so much visuals. So we had to make everything into slides, into a slideshow. And so I had to pivot it to immediately figure out how to do it on Zoom. But it was really interesting because I actually think I like parts of it better.
I'll find out soon. Yeah.
That's true. Cause you're going to be doing the online. So what was really interesting is, because we now can do it on Zoom, and we do it 3 times a year on Zoom, we are able to use the slideshow a lot more. But what I love is actually the breakout rooms. So when we do it in person, I think sometimes it gets a little chaotic because everyone's talking and you hear each other. And especially when we're practicing teaching, because we practice so much teaching, is I love having the breakout rooms because it also gives people a little space not to have the eyes of the teacher on them. Because I know sometimes, like when I'm working new stuff out, I don't necessarily want someone to be watching. And so I think the breakout rooms have been great. And because we also do so much brainstorming where we break out and talk about different poses, then we can actually build more of community give back to each other in the cohort. So like you've seen it where I think actually, no, wait. Oh, you did this with the postnatal. Yeah. So like you'll break out into breakout rooms. We're like, okay, let's talk about poses for the upper body. And then you break out and you write down the poses and you come back and then you can share them. So I do think it allows for a little bit easier sharing because that way you're not like frantically writing. And I also think a little more what I call playing in the mud, like where you as teacher trainees get to try out, like, how do I say the pelvic floor work instead of doing it in front of our eyes? And then we're there if you need. Yeah, because sometimes I do. I'm like, what is that? And then what's been really fun is actually the reach of who can join us.
Yeah.
So while we were traveling to other states, which was really fun, I mean, we had one woman from Australia do the pre and postnatal, which is like a 16.5-hour difference. So like she would be like 3 a.m. in like her blanket and then and then like we'd see the sun come up and her child would come in. And like, so we had someone from Australia. We had 2 people from South Africa. We had someone from South Korea recently. So we had someone from Dubai, like it's someone from Kuwait. It's just been amazing, the reach, because that way this methodology could go everywhere. And I just so believe that it can support people throughout their pregnancies and make a difference in their birthing. It just makes me just really excited.
You already started to touch on this, like talking about things that worked better in the hybrid format, or is there anything else that comes to mind? I know you mentioned the reach, the breakout rooms.
Sometimes I think that being in your own space, having some downtime can be really nice because I think sometimes when we're in the yoga room for like 8 hours, that, I don't know. I know for me, like in the 15-minute breaks, I really enjoy shutting everything off mentally and being in my own space. But
with your fridge right there. Too.
Yeah. And I have my fridge there. So I think that's really, really helpful. But one thing I think actually surprises people is actually how much teaching we can still do as a cohort. And what actually really surprised me is that, and I know you've now experienced 2 in-person cohorts, the one that you mentored and the one that you participated in. And there's definitely a bonding that can happen when you're face to face. But what's actually really surprised me is how connected the cohorts can still feel online, because we're still spending that time, because it's not like a self-paced course. Like you're still online in real time connecting. So I think that really surprised me, how connected the people can still feel, even when they're in different time zones and in their own space.
That's so great to hear. I love that. Okay. I want to see if we can do a speed round.
Okay.
I'm just going to say speed round.
All right, here we go. I'm ready. I'm ready.
What is your favorite thing to teach in class?
Pelvic floor. All things. No, pelvic floor. I don't know. It's between pelvic floor and the 3 levels of pelvis. I love those.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like you. Okay. On days when you feel like you got nothing from circle time, do you have a fallback theme?
Ooh, it's either pelvic floor, 3 levels of the pelvis, or what I really go to when I'm feeling like a little brain dead, open throat, open vagina. Like that whole idea that we're carrying tension and the pelvic floor can carry tension. So I love that one. In fact, I've been laughing about it for years, but I really want to make a t-shirt, a PYC t-shirt, open throat, open vagina. So people around the Upper West Side can wear that.
We'll see how sales go. Oh my gosh. All right. Okay. So I know PYC has been around, it's 24 years. Yeah.
It'll be 24 years in August.
Yeah. Well, so after all that time, what keeps you still engaged in teaching prenatal yoga after teaching it so long?
The students. It's really the students. Like, I'm going to sound like such a dork, but I get a lot of emails about people's births. And I know, like, even now talking about, like, I'm getting a little, like, in my chest, like that teary feeling. Even your nose starts to tingle when you are teary. I get so moved. Here I am, like, getting teared up by the students reaching out about, even when things didn't go as planned, how they'll say, I was still heard. Or even if they didn't feel heard, they were like, okay, I'm working through this. Or just, I heard your voice in my head. Or I used that mantra we talked about in class. Or, I remember one time one of the students was like, I yelled to my husband, keep my legs parallel. He didn't know what I was talking about, but I did. And, and so I know, like, you would have thought we've had like almost 24,000 students pass through, but hearing that their time in the studio has made some sort of impact, because they come in, they're with us for a bit of time, they have their baby, and then they move on. Maybe they'll come back for another, maybe they won't. They usually come back for postnatal, but know that during that little but transformative time that we played a role in that, it moves me. It really, really, really moves me. That was not a speed answer.
I had a feeling it wouldn't be a speedy answer. That's fine.
Okay.
Is there, what's one of your biggest, to bring it back to the training, what's one of your biggest challenges of teaching the PYC method teacher training?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be really honest. Okay, so we give out the online classroom a month ahead of time. And we send weekly emails with reminders of like, oh, you should be on, the beginning of module 1. How's module 1 going? Did you do the quiz? So we try to give support throughout that whole time of benchmarks of where people should be. And some people, it's always a bell-shaped curve, how things show up. So we have people that have really studied it and like, they probably could just do one weekend of it, or like that by module one, they're like, by weekend one, they're like, I got this. And then we have some people like, yeah, I've been spending some time. And then we have some people that are like, I just opened the module yesterday. And so to balance all that out, to support everyone in the room, because those that have really digested it, to have to go back to the very foundation, it feels like I'm not really serving them. To those in the middle ground, yeah, they could use a little review. But to those that haven't really put the time into prepping, I feel like I have to try to pull them through, and then they struggle because they don't have that foundation for me to go faster or forward. So I struggle with that. That's a challenge. But it's kind of like postnatal. It's a bit of a 3-ring circus. We never know who's going to be there. And some people could be 6 months postpartum. Some people will be 6 weeks. So it's always about trying to meet people where they're at. But I do think that is the biggest challenge.
Okay. Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Do I get to turn the table are we done with our speed round?
I know. I had a feeling that was coming, and I'm.
Can I take my interviewee hat off and put my comfortable interviewer hat on? And I grab your water, take a deep breath, get the shakes out. Yeah. All right. So yay. My turn. Okay. Hold on. Let me bring up my questions. Okay. I'm ready. All right. So, what made you choose the PYC method to study instead of other places?
Well, so these days I only go for like big choices. I only go off recommendations from people because the internet is too vast. I kind of just put it out into the world. Like, I want to learn more about prenatal, just kind of kept shouting it to people. And then a teacher that I respected said, oh, have you heard of the Prenatal Yoga Center? I was like, prenatal what? That sounds good. First off, you picked a great name, naming the studio. Because to me, I was like, oh, that's the center. That's where they do it. I'm pretty sure that I applied for the training that night, but I combed through the website. Yeah, I was like, let's do this. I combed through the website, and you can get a good feel of a place a lot of times through like a well done website. But what sold me was on the page where you actually describe the 85-hour teacher training. There's like this little embedded video of your smiling face. And it's a 2-minute video. And I immediately liked you, and I was immediately intimidated by you. And I was like, that's a good mix. That's a good mix for a teacher. Like, she knows what's up, and she's also seems really nice. But in that short video, you really nicely describe the 3-prong theory, which you talked about a few minutes ago. And it was hearing that the balance of asana, childbirth ed, and community that sold me.
Oh, I'm so glad my 2-minute video, it was impactful. That makes me really excited. Yeah. All right. So what surprised you most? What did you not expect to learn? Was it pelvic floor?
No. It was higher. I should say after a bit, I learned not to be surprised at all at anything that we learned. I was like, yeah, bring it on. I'm sure it's all going to make sense. But when, the manual dives into anatomy really early on, I saw, okay, I'm starting the anatomy section. I can do it. And I expected to start it lower. I was like, should we be talking about the uterus, the pelvis? No, we start at the neck. And I was like, this is too much. I was very surprised. Why are we starting at the neck? When you get the whole picture, it makes sense. But yeah, I didn't expect that. And then after that, I thought, okay, anything goes. It's fine.
That's true. I guess that makes me know. I never thought of that because we look at the whole body, and because it's not just the pelvic floor and uterus that's dealing, like the whole body changes. Like we get that forward head position, the breathe. Like I never thought that somebody could open the manual and be like, oh, we're doing it the whole thing. Okay.
The whole body. But it makes sense now. That was at first.
Okay. This is where we're doing this talk. Yeah. All right. So, this is actually something that I think I'm super proud of, but I also know that people freak out. So I know in some teacher trainings that they'll be like, oh, you're going to leave with 15 sequences to teach. And we don't teach you specific sequences. In fact, I think, and you can let me know what you think of this, I think one of the biggest intimidation points is that we teach a template, like a structure, but we don't teach poses. Like we teach poses that will go in, but when anyone takes a PYC class, they're going to notice like we always have circle time, we always have restorative, like there are benchmarks, but not a sequence because we teach it off, we create class off of what the students tell us in circle time. So how did you realize going in that we would not give you preset sequences? And when you realized that, how did it feel to realize you're going to be teaching on the fly from what the students tell you that day?
I didn't expect preset sequences. I was expecting planning a class out beforehand and then teaching it. And so when I did learn that we teach based on what is in front of us, I don't want to be dramatic and use the word terrified, but so I'll say overwhelmed because I'm a planner. I've been teaching, I had been teaching vinyasa, or I still am teaching vinyasa yoga since 2012. And I have a written down class plan at the front of the room every time I teach. I don't look at it, but it's there. So yeah, when I learned that every time I would observe another PYC teacher's class, I would usually try to ask them like, did you not have it planned? Did you have anything planned? What did you come up with? And most, sometimes they'd say, oh, I wanted to try, this move out. Most of the time, I could not believe it when they said that they just did it based on what they saw. And practice did really make it easier. Eventually got over myself. It was a little intimidating at first.
So, okay, if anyone's out there listening, they're like, it's totally on the fly. Let me just back it up. So again, there is a class structure. It's very clear. In fact, we teach with a clock. Like, so when I'm facing, because I do all my classes hybrid. So when I have my computer there, underneath the computer is a clock because we do have markers that we hit. And now that people that might be students are hearing this, they might be like, oh, I'm starting to see it. So like, there's always circle time, that's a marker. And then restorative, that's a marker. And then warm up vinyasa, that's a marker. Be at the front of the mat, that's a marker. So it's not like we just start class and the teacher's like, let's just throw it in the air and see where it lands. It's very clear markers, but what's within those markers will be different. So like if your students are saying, I really want my neck and upper back are just killing, you're not going to be like, I'm just going to do hips because I want to do hips. Like we'll then we'll then find those poses. So yeah, just in case any teacher out there is listening to be like, what? Yeah, it's a class structure, but not a class sequence. Mm-hmm. Would you say that? Did that give you any more confidence when you realized there's a structure and hitting points?
Yes. But I didn't really believe it until I did it. And when I did it,
tell me how you didn't believe it until you did it.
I'm just such an anxious person, that it blew my mind how someone could hear things going on with people and then weave it into their class. But the more that I practiced, I could hear, okay, everyone is talking about forward shoulders today. I would think, actually today we worked our way up to a camel pose.
I love a camel.
Because we were talking about a lot about upper back and, losing space, breathing. And because I had a goal, and this was just this morning, because I had a goal in mind, it was just easier as we went, like, okay, I know I need to come to the top of the mat at this point. Cool. We can do some chest opening here. And it just gets easier with practice. Absolutely. And observing other teachers.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one of the nice things is like, we're hearing the actual students say, because you guys have to observe, you're actually hearing the feedback of the students. And then you can also start to hear a pattern of like, all right, we tend to have upper back and neck, lower back and hips. So then we start to kind of, in my mind, I have, well, we call them buckets when we're learning it. I have like certain things in the buckets. All right. What I kind of just forgot is that this is actually a podcast. So we need to take a quick break. And when we come back, I have more questions. I know I'm so used to a different format where I have like it written out with like break. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more questions. All right. We'll be right back. Okay. We are back. So, all right. So I'm kind of throwing some more stuff at you. So, so when you started to practice, how was it? Well, it's kind of a multi-part question. When you were observing the classes as a teacher trainee, what was it like to actually be in that space? Whether it was a re-release or you were there, what was it like to be learn from the actual pregnant students?
You mean when we observed a class?
Yeah, when you were observing classes in the program.
I remember I would watch the re-releases at home of a class from that morning, and I would like put my ear up and write down as I observed. I would write down what different people were complaining about that morning, and because I could pause the video, I would like pause and be like, that sounds like when Regina was talking about her SI pain. So I could really slow it down. And that slowing it down in that way, that was really helpful to me. I don't know. I don't remember what you asked, but I just started talking.
Yeah, no, that was good. Yeah. It was about, because I think what's really helpful is, and I think it was in your training, this comes up actually in a lot, where people are like, I'm afraid of pregnant bodies, which is, and it's also interesting and also super brave of the people that are like, I'm afraid of the pregnant bodies, but they're going to be in my class, so I have to learn to teach them. I'm like, how brave to then jump into this. But as yoga teachers, like, you're bound to have, whether you're going to be a prenatal teacher or not, you're bound to have pregnant bodies. Yeah. And so to learn to not be afraid. And what I think is so important is like, you guys are actually learning from pregnant bodies. You're not just learning from me or whoever else the teacher is. Like, you're learning, because we can only think of so many things, but it's so much more authentic to hear and also to witness. I mean, that's honestly like when I started figuring out how, because the blocks, we think of like little hand stilts. When I started to incorporate using blocks, it was because I watched the students before I really created how to do it. I came up through so many methods, like, do we step the foot forward? Do we swing the foot forward? Do I place it? Like, I'm like, oh, what if their hands were higher? And because of watching the students, that literally taught me how to teach them. So yeah, I love that you guys get to see them. All right. So I have more questions. All right. Was there a moment during the training where something clicked for you and you're like, I get it?
Yes, there was something specific in the training. And I also have something specific from the mentorship when a year later, something clicked even more.
Ooh, I want to hear.
I'll tell you. So during the training, I finally learned what the SI joint was. And I was like, that is the chronic pain I've had for over a decade. And I'll get a little salty about this. I don't know why no one could diagnose that. I went to so many specialists, and you are the first person who gave me that education.
Interesting.
Yep.
But you went to like physical therapists and orthopedists, and they didn't touch your, okay.
I don't want to get too mad on the podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you. Thank you for that. And then during the mentorship, the teaching on the fly clicked even more. And I don't know if there was a specific moment, or just getting to hear the material again, or stepping into the seat of a mentor where I had more confidence. But I just had almost zero anxiety stepping into a class with, in air quotes for the people listening, nothing prepared. not that I have nothing, there's a whole wealth of knowledge. I feel more confident pulling from it. And I think between the year of training and mentorship, it slowly got a little bit easier and easier. It might have even been the last day of that mentorship, second weekend. You taught a postnatal class.
Yeah.
And we talked about, you taught Nadarajasana, you taught King Dancer pose.
Oh. And
then you said to us, and you see all the different things that led up to that. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. I can do that. I was doing it before, but it just really clicked with my confidence.
Oh, I love that. So let's actually step into what do you remember stepping into in front of the class for your first prenatal class? How was that?
God. You know what? I had been teaching already for a long time. And so I was confident leading a room. I was confident caring for people. I was good at like solving all those little problems. But somehow I got a little bit of imposter syndrome when suddenly they were pregnant, and I knew that I had all the training. But I was still a little bit anxious. And I think and this just goes back to practice. Every single week that I taught, I feel like 2% of anxiety was replaced with joy.
Oh, I love that. I love that there's joy when you teach. So how do you feel like the prenatal training and learning to teach on the fly and react to who's in the room, how do you think that changed not just your prenatal classes, but because I know you teach other than prenatal, how do you think that changed your classes or your teaching overall?
It after the first weekend, because I did the live training, we did 2 weekends with the month in between to practice and learn more material. Immediately after the first weekend, I felt so much more relaxed, and like suddenly my scope was widened. We talked a little bit about that the teaching that first weekend, that round robin.
Oh, the round robin. Do you want to explain that for people? Like what is that situation?
Oh, gladly. I would love to explain that. So the first, you jump into teaching right away. And at the end of the first weekend, you teach a prenatal class. But you can't plan for it, especially because you don't know where in class you're going to be teaching. So you're observing and doing the class with your palms sweating, and then you wait to hear your name, like, okay, Phoebe, go on up, take over from whatever the person before you was doing. So there's no way to plan. And it's one of the harder teaching challenges that I've done. After that, I just felt so much more at ease. Like I had to get through that obstacle course to be stronger. So I hate to admit, I'm very grateful for that. But so the way that it changed me teaching my vinyasa classes, I did feel a lot more confidence. And then like some specific things, I felt like I could creatively incorporate more exercise from outside the yoga canon, but still make it, part of a yoga class. In general, more movement that feels good, especially in the upper body, because pregnant students crave that. And I realized I crave that too. Everyone else must be craving it. And then in general, more anatomy knowledge, which is something I wanted to gain from the training. Before I even decided I wanted to specifically do a prenatal training, I was like, I want to learn more anatomy and how it applies to yoga classes. So tick that box. And when I teach now my vinyasa classes, I never shut up about the pelvis. I cannot stop talking about where the pelvis is, where the ribs are, and if they're expanding with breath. And I don't know if students have noticed, but yeah, it's a lot of changes.
Right, so what is it like to be what was it like when you were a mentor a few months ago and you were on the other side of the training and you were then supporting new teachers?
So you have gathered, and probably people listening at home have gathered, I'm an anxious person, but stepping in as a mentor actually felt really natural. I love helping people. And I love talking about prenatal yoga. Go figure. So it just seemed really right. I really wanted to meet new people, and it was very cool meeting new people who really wanted to hear what I had to say. And I also felt like I was representing the studio. So yeah, I felt very proud.
You should. You did a great job.
Thank you.
If there's someone considering studying at PYC, what is something you want them to know ahead of time and to expect?
It is a lot of work. It's a lot of reading, but not just reading. It's understanding what you're reading, really taking the time. I think that it would be a lot less studying work if all that we did was offer gentler versions of yoga poses and tell people to breathe and they're strong. So it's a good thing that it's a lot of work, but to get the most out of it, and you touched on this a little bit with the preparing for the weekends, to get the most out of it, do all the reading, make study guides, whatever works for your brain.
You did flashcards, right?
Oh, I did a lot. Like just before the first weekend, I read through the manual once, and I read through it again, and I wrote down notes, putting things into my own words. Then I went through the notes and just recopied all the things I didn't understand. I just kept writing and highlighting and writing. And then for the test, I made flashcards. Use whatever works for you. I traditionally wasn't very good at studying. I got good grades, but it was purely out of anxiety. But it was much easier studying for this. And I'll say to other people, it's much easier if you're genuinely interested.
Yeah, definitely. I think that helps. All right. I get to do a speed round for you, but we're going to take another break and then we're going back. I feel like you're already sweating. You're like, speed round. All right. Drink your water. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. I feel like I see the red starting to build. I promise I'll be nice. Okay, so I actually stole a couple of these questions from you. All right, so what is your favorite thing to teach in class?
This is not going to be speedy because I'm going to say the Bob Fosse, and we're going to have to explain what that is.
Okay, you're going to have to explain what that is.
So the Bob Fosse is not in the original canon of yoga poses. It's like, I like to do it at the top of the mat. So like after we've come back from a wave of movement and we're coming back to the top of the mat, widen your feet. I have them wide. People listening can't see what my hands are doing, but I have them widen the feet to the edges of the mat and then flip the heels out even more. And then there's this pressing outwards of the feet and the outer legs, as if, and sometimes I say like you're trying to rip our mats apart or like you're pressing into walls. And I do it most classes because my SI joint is always hurting and it feels so good with that. But folks with tailbone pain, or we want to breathe more length into the pelvic floor, it's my favorite and it feels so good.
And then friends at home, go ahead and just look Bob Fosse up. He is a choreographer. And so you brought up a really good point. We make up a lot of poses. I mean, like there's the Deb's pyramid. Like we make up poses because the intention is not to follow the typical yoga canon. As we talked about, like we're using the poses as tools to prepare the body. And so sometimes we need to find ways to lengthen that pelvic floor and find more internal rotation. So really the Bob Fosse pose came from years ago when I was a performer. I did the show Sweet Charity and my position in Hey Big Spender was like that wide internal rotation. So friends, go look that up. All right. So back to speed round. Okay. So what is your fallback theme for a class if you got nothing from circle time?
I will pull whatever active relaxation technique I used from my last orthodontist or dentist appointment.
Oh my God, I love that.
I seem to have a lot of those appointments. I just got my braces off. For people watching, braces are finally off, but I've had to use a lot of relaxation techniques. So I tell stories from the dentist chair.
I love it. Sometimes I get my eyebrows threaded and I'm like using my own tools then because I find that so painful. Okay. Okay. So, we're going to turn this back to teacher training. What was your favorite part of teacher training?
I first have to get this out of the way and say the people. My group of teacher trainees they were just such special people. I'm really grateful to have met them. And I've made some, close friends from that group. So even if I didn't learn any yoga and I just met them, that was great. But I want to give like a more personal answer and just, and also say that like, I felt comfortable in an educational setting again, which again, I'm an anxious person. Answering questions in class just made me break out in hives. But the first day of training, I remember thinking like, I know the answer. I want to say something, but it scares me. And I just started taking that leap and answering questions, and big confidence boost. And just made me feel better about being in a learning setting.
Oh, I love that. All right. So I want to go back to anatomy because I know folks get really overwhelmed because, as you mentioned, we start with anatomy, we start with the neck and we go down. And, I love the pelvic floor. So there's always that deep dive. All right. So what is your advice for future trainees about how to handle anatomy if it overwhelms them? Because for some folks, it's like, it's also maybe the first time they've really studied it, because a lot of 200-hour trainings don't go super deep into that.
Yeah. Take it slow and use whatever outside help that you can get. I mean, for me, it's a lot of just like sitting down and touching my own body, touching my joints, tracing things. I had like an anatomy coloring book, and I would like look at the diagrams and color it in. Our mentor showed us a really cool app where you could isolate different muscles. As you're reading, move around. Like, so don't just read what's on the page. And if you're not getting it, just sit with it. Go outside the box, but go slowly. And it does get easier when you see the full picture and how it plays into class. So even if it's confusing at first, it will make more sense as you keep understanding in your own body and in others' bodies. And as for the pelvic floor, the physical model that you have in the classroom really does help. Seeing it 3D, how it looks like a bowl. It's great for showing students in our prenatal yoga class, but also really, really helpful. And getting more comfortable hearing people talk about the pelvic floor and talking about it yourself. It gets easier. I would go back and listen to how other teachers taught it and then practice repeating what they said until it didn't sound like I was speaking a foreign language. But I'll also point people to the podcast episodes, especially for the pelvic floor. So I guess I'm looping it back to advertising the podcast that we're talking about. But I have combed through and found pelvic floor episodes.
Yeah, I love, me. I think we probably like 30 or 40 of them. All right, last question. What are you most excited about since you are going to be an upcoming teacher? Not just, so we did the mentorship, we talked about that, but you're going to be my co-teacher. What is exciting about that?
I'm excited to, this is going to sound really dorky. I'm excited to prepare for it. I'm excited to see what else I need to brush up on, to learn. And I already feel proud. Oh, I'm getting all red and emotional. I already feel very proud that I'm going to do that. I'm excited to just feel more proud and feel more like I'm representing the studio. But then also it's so cool because a few years ago, I didn't have this as a goal. So it's just kind of a testament towards going towards what interests you and what you like, and seeing what happens and seeing what comes next.
Well, first of all, I'm so excited to work with you. And I have to tell you, how I mentioned that we get people that write in, and again, I'm going to get teary about that, like right about their births. Do you know that people have said, please tell Phoebe, thank you. I loved her classes. So I just wanted to share that with you. I know.
Okay.
I will. I can pull them out. And they're somewhere. Renee never deletes an email. So we probably have like 20,000 emails archived. I'm sure I can find that for you.
I would say the hardest part of the teaching job is like when the people go away and have their babies.
I know.
You see them and you learn stuff about their bodies, and then they go off and have their babies. And so, yeah, I want to know want to know what happened.
The fun thing is I actually, until you said that, it didn't occur to me. I don't know why. I see them for postnatal. I often see them for postnatal, and Julie sees them for baby and me, but it literally just hit me. I'm like, oh, you guys don't see them.
Yeah.
You don't hear. Oh, well, I will make an effort actually when people write back to share that with the teaching community, because that must feel a little bit like, how'd it go? Now what? Okay.
Yes, please do.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm such a dork. I didn't even it never occurred to me. I'm sorry. Well, oh my gosh, Phoebe, this was so much fun. Thank you first of all, we're doing it on video, which we never do. And because usually when I'm the interviewer, I often listen by closing my eyes and really listening. This time I'm like, okay, but I also covered my face because I can't imagine the weird faces I made. So thank you for letting me have you come on and turn the tables on me. And thank you for letting me pick your brain about your teaching and your journey. So this has been really fun.
Thank you so much. Again, just my ego is like up here now. I feel I'm on top of the world. So thank you. My favorite podcast.
This has been an episode of Yoga Birth Babies, produced by Prenatal Yoga Center. You can catch us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. I'm Deb Flaschenberg. Thanks for listening.